Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Mental Brew podcast, and today we have Steve Sallis. Steve, thanks for coming on, my friend.
Thank you, Dennis. We've just spent 12 minutes offline talking about stuff. It's a shame we didn't record that and put it
Yeah,
in, but I,
yeah,
I'm sure we will crack on, mate, and have a great conversation about how we can help people have better lives.
absolutely. And so starting off, Steve, why do you do what you do?
Um, that is a brilliant question. I don't think I've ever been asked that for ages. I just love what I do. I haven't really
Yeah,
thought about why I do what I do. Um, I get real satisfaction out of helping people and by serving others. Let's start on servant leadership, serving
yeah.
others and giving to the universe. I'm not religious whatsoever, Dennis, but I'm a very spiritual man. And
Hmm.
I know that if you give to the universe will give you all of this back.
Yeah,
So there's a selfish element to servant, is
yeah,
that, and sometimes when I was a younger person, I wouldn't have thought like that or felt like that or delivered like that.
hmm.
But the actual reason is I give, and then because I give, lots of people talk about me, hopefully when I'm not in the room, and then they say he's a really nice person. So
Yeah.
you get it back, and then that makes you feel good. So yeah, I know I waffled a bit there, but it was probably waffled because it was a good question.
Well, that's brilliant. I suppose I would become aware of yourself through Danny Murphy. So you obviously would have coached Danny over in England, and I'm working with Danny with Cork City. Danny would have been like, look, and sort of people listening. So Steve works with individuals in schools, businesses, and elite level sport. We've seen you work with the Premier League, English national team, various levels, and kind of working with varying kind of sporting FAs. So when Danny kind of gave me the brief rundown straight online and looked, and I think I listened to well, I know I did. I listened to your podcast on the high performance episode, high performance podcast, your episode on that, which was fantastic, right? And since then, I've been kind of eating stuff up. But for you, I suppose starting off your original journey or your journey kind of started in school. Did that be correct?
Yeah, failed footballer, and you know, I was with the UEFA Pro License in Northern Ireland, and a few of them said, "Steve, stop putting yourself down, stop putting yourself down." And I said, "No, lads, there's perspective and there's context."
Mm.
Right, I played at Brighton for 8 years, Dennis, and the truth was I wasn't good enough. Let me give you an example. Frank Lampard was my age, and we played against him in a youth game. And when you're playing against Frank Lampard, in the moment, you know you're miles away. You know you're nowhere near that level.
Yeah,
So it's quite humbling to play against people that are miles better than you. So I then left teaching 17 years and joined Millwall, and then you meet people that played in the FA Cup final against Man United in 2004 and chased Ronaldo around the pitch. So then that gives you even more clarity that you weren't very good, right? So listen, there's always levels and
yeah.
levels, and wherever we are in life, society, in any genre of work, there's people that are better than us. So really, that part of my journey was the best thing that ever happened. Was the fact where I wasn't good enough to be a professional footballer, so I went and become a school teacher instead. So I left Brighton to go to Greenwich Uni and did 17 years in the London schools.
And was that kind of difficult to get your head around, kind of realizing, going, Jesus, my dream now was to be a professional footballer, and you just come to realization that, as you said, Derry, maybe not up to the required standard. Was that difficult to get your head around for a period of time? Was there kind of, I wouldn't say a trauma, but was there maybe a bit of baggage with that kind of going, geez, what could have been?
No, because the reality was I wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like something, it's a build up, isn't it?
yeah,
Unfortunately or fortunately, I had a father that told me the truth early in my life anyway. And then unfortunately now we've got parents that aren't realistic, they're idealistic. So
yeah,
parents are pumping the tires of their children in completely the wrong way.
yeah.
So then when they do get rejection, there is a catastrophe. So as you know, in my work now with some of the world's best athletes and youth athletes, my work is telling them the truth, Dennis.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm draconian or autocratic. But people employ me because they know I have the experience which can really help them. But
Mm.
sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, my job. We asked off there actually. This sidetrack off there. You said, "How does it feel when you go in to work with top level managers
yeah.
and telling them the truth?" And I said to you, "I don't care.
Mm.
Like I've got knowledge which can add value to them. They have to make a decision whether they take that information on board. So
Yeah.
sell or tell, Dennis. Do we tell someone or do we sell it to them? So common sense stuff. But as we know, in the world of sport, there's a lot of ignorance.
And I suppose you work in like a business then as well. Do you see many commonalities between sport and business?
Great question. I think all life, Dennis, is a third, a third, and a third, really. I write this in my new book. Good plug for me. It comes out next week, the leadership book. But I think a third of people generally in most businesses and football clubs are top performers. I think a third
Yeah.
are in the middle, where they're like we in schools we would call them your CD borderlines.
Yeah.
So they're the kids that, with great tuition, great technical teaching, great English, great maths, great scientists, all these people putting in interventions. And then the bottom third, y- right, I'm going to spend time describing this because I think this is important. From my experience of going into four failing schools, let's change those thirds into six.
Yeah.
So the top two six, always high performers. The middle two are generally the people that are trying to get into the top third. And then from my experience of school improvement, so four failing schools into aspiring schools, the fifth, sixth, right,
Mm.
of quality are often mismanaged, Dennis.
Okay.
I've gone into lots of schools and they're not always going to be outstanding practitioners, but they're the people you can get into the middle. But a
Yeah.
lot of people get rid of those people, but they're often
Yeah.
mismanaged. It's only in my book, it's only the bottom six of six. I say, they are the unconsciously incompetent. They are the people that are de-energizers. They are the people that, you need out and you need to ding them out, which is only, I think, statistically 18%. So, yeah, so I know I've waffled on that answer, but yeah, the answer is I see the same trends most places.
Yeah. Yeah. And just with the school journey, how would you describe your, I suppose, your teaching experience in those 17 years? And I kind of get to the transition out of teaching. I have a specific question on that, but overall, how would you describe your experience when you were in the classroom?
Just the most amazing, inspiring, heartbreaking, crucifying, inspiring part of my life, really.
Yeah.
We spoke off air about some visuals, and in this
Mm.
edit, you'll chuck some visuals in. I think it's important that I don't I didn't have 17 years of success, put it that way.
Okay.
It brought me to tears a few times. I dealt in high gang culture schools in the heart of Southeast London. We had kids at 11 years old wearing stab vests under their school uniform.
Wow.
I had two year 11s in my GCCP group got sent down for life for a murder. So, so I know that's the bad stuff. Let
Yeah.
me clarify this. There was lots of great
Yeah.
stuff. The analogy I used, and I said this on the Irish pro license yesterday, is I know I'm a lunatic because one of the kids that wore a stab vest as an 11-year-old ended up going to Oxford University 7 years later.
Wow. Brilliant. That's
So because I've seen it, it makes me even more of a lunatic about human change. Anyone can change in the right environment with the right teachers and the right mentors.
yeah.
And I don't just mean teachers, I'm talking about teaching assistants, dinner ladies,
Yeah.
real cultural change. And when I say we, not me, like great leaders make you feel $1 million, don't they?
Yes.
And so a lot of my work was being the good cop. And I think that's always another reason you've made me reflect why I've always been an assistant, because that's the best role for me. I'm really comfortable making difficult decisions, by the way. I'm really comfortable doing it. But the truth is, I just don't enjoy it as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that would be a great question for the audience listening is, know your super strengths. If you're a number one, crack on. If you're a number two, you might even be number three. So yeah, there's a lot of people in professional football, for example, that think they're a number one and they're miles off it.
Yes. Yeah. That actually resonates with me massively. So this was we spoke of this off air. So my background in terms of coaching and sport has been GA in terms of following it, in terms of being involved in it, playing, and obviously coaching. And my goal was to be a number one. My goal was to be, whether it be a manager or even be maybe a number two, being the head coach just under the manager. And do you know what? I got to a high enough level, but I kind of realized, and I probably realized it actually since working with Danny and the lads, my role and for me, I'm better suited as a number three or a number four, where I can don't have the responsibility of being the top dog. And I'll be honest with you, looking back and looking even the stuff that the way the lads do sessions, I don't have that attention to detail. But this is my skill is being able to go around and kind of watch and listen and take stuff in and maybe introduce a comment or a conversation that can maybe get people thinking or reflecting. Um, but I am unbelievably comfortable in this role now. And I'm unbelievably happy in this role, especially doing what I'm doing. And see the lads coaching now, and I remember before thinking, geez, I'd be able to take my hand to that and no bother. And don't have a graph for it, have no interest in doing it. But I suppose I'm happy where I am and I'm looking to do a good job where I am. I think that's really important for people to have that level of self-awareness, because what I've seen in other sports is everyone wants to be the top dog, and then you've got conflict, and then you've got wasted
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, and that's because this thing called an ego gets in the
Yeah,
way. As listen, you're well versed in this subject, and I think it's really beautiful for you to share the truth about you and your super strengths and know your narrative and your journey is taking you that place. But to do that, what you've done, Dennis, is looked in the mirror, and there's not enough people looking in the mirror, and most people would naturally see me as a number one. Does that make sense? But
yeah,
actually. I've said on air, and I need to revisit this. I enjoy being a number two more.
yeah,
I know I could be a number one. I know I speak like a one number one right now. I'm
yeah,
zero bullshit, get shit done.
yeah,
However, I've made a life decision to be the good cop.
yeah,
That is a honestly, it's a genuinely like because it gives me more happiness, mate.
yeah,
My brother's a head teacher. You've got to make lots of difficult decisions. I've got lots of mates that they're the decisions that I can make totally comfortably, but I wouldn't enjoy it as much. It's weird, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, and I actually did. I don't do really. I'll be honest. I don't do much research for podcast guest strikes. I want to keep it natural. But I actually did for yourself, because I was chatting to Danny, and Danny kind of said you'll really, really enjoy it, and it'll be a really interesting, engaging conversation. So I was kind of reflecting again, and reflecting something now I would have never done up to a few years ago, because I just thought it was a load of bollocks. It was just like, why? Whereas I was kind of reflecting on myself, and this was my own journey in kind of in education and whatnot. I suppose in education, but also in life in terms of success. And I was listening to a couple of your podcasts you've done with other people recently, and there was a load of stuff that resonated with me. But one in particular was kind of speaking of the journey and difficulty transitioning from, we'd say, teaching, set up your own business, and the challenges with that. And I've kind of done it as well, and it is the most terrifying thing I have ever done in my entire life, right? But I love it. I'm buzzing. So, like, how did you find that yourself, and kind of have that realization, kind of going, look, I might have to leave teaching. I want to start up my own business, and kind of having that vulnerability, kind of going, geez, what if it doesn't work? Or what, the what ifs around that. Do you know what I mean? And kind of deciding, going, yeah, I love teaching, but I could offer and be more impactful with my own business.
Mm. Right, well, I'll piece it all together. Um, I've got a great saying when you book is I believe the magic happens for us all when we're not in the room.
Yeah.
And how will people talk about us when we're not in the room? And I wouldn't be on this podcast now if someone hadn't mentioned me when I'm not in the room.
Yeah, fair
And
actually. Yeah.
so the magic for us all happens when we're not in the room, right? It really does. So how do we get to that place where people talk about us when we're not in the room? And an ex-student in 2013 in October, and I've taught 40,000 kids in South London.
Mm,
And on that narrative of schools, or as obviously a PE teacher, went to leader, head of pastoral care, and then was a vice principal for many years. So
yeah.
I learnt strategy, operation. What do I mean by that in terms of language? There's a fight down the corridor. Sallis will sort it out, crack on, get it done. If there's a school trip to do, I'll get it done. But I wasn't very strategic. Why? Because I didn't know what strategy was. So
Mm,
then I've got a set of super strengths really about strategic and operational balance and how that looks. And ex-pupil decided to text his old teacher in 2013 and saying, "Have you seen the job at Millwall?" So I didn't actually leave teaching to go to business. I left
yeah.
teaching to go back into
Move on.
my
That's all
preferred
right.
choice.
Yeah.
And so Joy Mill was one of the academy management team and spent 4 brilliant seasons there. And then decided after 4 years of real graft and 7 days a week work, because you're doing pro football with very little time off, that I wanted a lifestyle change, if I was honest. And then the whole business was complete fluke. It was solutionsmindset.com. I used to have on my office door, please come to my office with a solution, not a problem. common sense stuff. You
Yeah.
know, that's the kids and the adults. Dot 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 smiley face. You
Yeah.
know, real common sense. So the leadership, the name of the business is obviously I'm quite proud of because it was stuff that I lived by. And then I had an opportunity that summer, 2017, to work with the England under 15s.
Mm.
So I'm waffling a bit, but it's important that people stay with the story because the story's relevant and how did it feel. So I leave Millwall end of July. I go to England camp for 4 weeks. I have a week off at the end of August, just around the time of my birthday. September the 1st comes, which is like back to school type years, you know, when you start school again. I woke up September 2017, the loneliest man in the world. And I text my dad at about midday, you know, this is the real start of my business.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I knew immediately that, like, I'm in the house. I'm never in the house. I'm always at work. Always drive
Yeah.
somewhere. And now I have a business and it's me against the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for 2 years, and that then another conversation sort of led into COVID. For 2 years, mate, I was all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's mad.
It's tough, mate. Really, really tough. So I'm not the guy that's going to sit here on a podcast and tell all the bullshit. I'm just going to tell the truth and say there's been some really lonely times as a business, and you
Yeah.
know, and I have to share this without Greg Patterson at the SFA through COVID, when I got no furlough and I lost probably over 150 jobs. Yeah, if it wasn't for the Scottish FA giving me online work, I might have lost my house.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
yeah, it's real stuff, isn't it?
That's mad, yeah. That like that pressure, man. That's
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, so but people see the swan, and I just want people to know that if you are going to go it alone, there is an element of huge risk.
yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. Massive.
Yeah,
Massive.
tough, mate. So yeah, listen, I'm reflecting now while you're asking me and thinking, am I happier? I don't think I'm necessarily happier. I call it 4-4-5-3, 6-2, and 7-1. There's loads of ways to make eight. I
Mm.
think this is just a different part of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a potential in the summer. I've been offered to potentially go to a Premier League club full time, which is
That's
obviously amazing. Yeah, and
mad.
financially would be great, but I've got to decide what my why is. I've got to decide if I want to go back to the environment. I've
Yeah.
got to decide if I want to do 6-7 days a week again. I've got to decide if I'm going to move house and all
Yeah.
of these things. And because I have a reasonably successful business, my gut already is saying I don't really need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with
But
you.
if you just said that to me, if you said that to me at the end of 2019, you know what the answer is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gone.
Wow. And is this a decision you're spending much time on? Is it taking up much headspace?
Of course, because the first thing is, and I live in Greenwich in southeast London, and Greenwich is a very beautiful place to live.
Mm.
And I walk through Greenwich Park and I see beauty, and it gives
Mm.
me calmness and clarity. And for a place in London which is traditionally very busy, where I've chosen to live
Mm.
is a place of tranquility.
Yeah.
And that peace that I get from my area is really important to me. It's important to
Yeah.
my health. I'm a member of a golf club, Dennis, and this golf club that I'm a member of, Blackheath Golf Club, is my haven.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid. I know there's other golf clubs, but it's the people at the golf club, Dennis, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sharing all of this stuff because when you work so hard for so many years, which I've done, I'm willing to make less sacrifice now. I'm a bit tired, Dennis. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm a bit tired. So I'm reflecting on this call right now. I'm thinking, I don't know yet, mate.
Yeah, and it is a massive decision, obviously, but your happiness and everything is kind of key and paramount to that. Like you mentioned there, kind of a haven, and it kind of struck something with myself as well. Like my front room now, where I'm doing this podcast, is my kind of little safe space. Um, no, I haven't actually told this story on a podcast before. I said it to Murph, all right. So if you come in my front room, you're going to see a lot of kind of memorabilia, action figures, stuff of TV shows I loved as a kid. Um, And during COVID, I was suffering really badly from anxiety, really bad. And it was actually in here or watch TV and it would just calm me. Now, it's obviously in my house, so it's kind of different to what you're kind of saying, but it's still the kind of similar point that having that space where you can kind of go in and it can decompress, where your thoughts slow down and you're kind of looking at things and kind of going, wow, it's just kind of, for me, it's just kind of a safe space. And there's kind
Right.
of,
Yeah.
there's a walk around here well where I kind of go as well if I'm kind of a bit anxious or whatever else. But that kind of struck a chord. That's really like to share that, especially on a podcast, is massive. Like, do you know what I mean?
And Dennis, I haven't been home. This is so you know what we've been trying to get this podcast sorted out for ages.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
first day in my house, I think, for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Like, I'm traveling, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait tonight, not a rude way to you, to get off this call, put my feet up on the
Yeah,
recliner and just
yeah,
watch crap TV.
yeah, yeah,
So I do, even I've got my book launch next week. It's all a bit hectic and people saying about your book launch, are you excited? No,
yeah,
no interest. I almost want it out the way.
yeah. Okay.
So the one thing I'm looking forward to in the next 3 weeks is going to Germany to watch a few games at the Euros.
Class.
That's the one thing I am looking forward to.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to playing golf at the weekend, and I ain't got a clue where this podcast is going. But what I'm trying to say is if you're an athlete, do what you love.
yeah,
If you're a parent, go and put time where you're not a parent, and you do what you love.
yeah.
I work with lots of athletes or head coaches. But all they do is serve other people, Dennis, and then they don't serve themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I'd see that as well. Yeah. They
Tiring, isn't it?
give a
It's
lot.
tiring.
Oh, come here. It's massive, man. I won't mention names, but I've seen it where people give so much to themselves to their players, so much to the staff, and you're kind of looking and going, what else have you left for yourself? Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
staff burnout's huge. Staff burnout, particularly in professional football, is absolutely massive. Am I right in saying that Klopp has left Liverpool because of just said he needed a rest?
Yeah, he said he was wrecked. He said it was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's age or wisdom. In your 20s and 30s, you can go and crack on, and
Mm,
I still work really hard, but I definitely have to be more strategic about putting places in my week where I fill my cup.
yeah. Okay. I
And
do.
I'm the energizer, so that makes sense. I'm the
Yes.
guy that's talking about mindset, but the reality is I'm just a guy with a bit of knowledge and
Yeah.
a story to tell, but I'm still living the same battles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fair point. Really fair point. And you mentioned something there about being, was it the business owner kind of being lonely? You kind of struck a chord with that as well. So like I would started up my business, you see it there, Fusion Performance, and goal after goal after goal and looking to do X, Y, and Z, right? And one of them was to kind of go away up the country, stay in a hotel, get ready for a workshop or whatever else. But man, it was boring. Like the wife wasn't there, the kid wasn't there. You're kind of hanging around. Now you could go to the gym and go to the bar for food or whatever else. But I just found it kind of going, fuck, if I was doing this now every week, it would be tiresome. Like,
Crap. Yeah, crap. And it's just listen, it's a game of life. You lose this, you get that. You get this, you lose that.
yeah,
What are the positives? I'm not working for a knob anymore. I'm
yeah,
not working for narcissists. I'm not working with draconian leadership. I'm not working with people that I don't want to hang around with.
yeah,
So that's the great thing about it. But I miss the great people that I work with in my lifetime. I miss. I must mention Larry McAvoy. You'll love this. Larry McAvoy is the under 18 coach at Millwall.
yeah,
What a credible human being that man is.
yeah,
Right. And Harry is as loyal as a dog. I call him a dog because he's so loyal.
yeah,
And Harry would say things like, Sallis, he said, gratitude every day, mate. He goes, we could be on a roof, we could be down a mine,
yeah. Sure.
and I miss talking to Larry,
Yeah,
I miss talking to Dave Livermore. Oh, I missed that. So just to give the audience a little bit of clarity, I go in as a consultant in professional football. So I've worked at Wimbledon at first team level, Cardiff at first team level, Northampton, and now is the club's great and I would hate to say it's just around the corner,
Mm.
but it's bloody convenient for me to travel an hour and not 4 hours to
Yeah.
go and do a day's work.
Yeah.
So I do dip my toe in and have a bit of a hybrid working model where it's about the life that you want, not the life that you don't want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. I would have made the decision not to go looking for a full-time teaching contract 2 years ago. Where I said, and I kind of said it to the wife, and be fair, she'd be brilliant. Because I said I'm going to go back and I'm going to do my master's in sports psychology, and what I'll do is I'll sub around that. So I ended up getting subbing. It was a 3 days a week, around my college, but I've never felt such freedom in terms of what I was able to do and what I wanted to do. Like I loved the time in the classroom with the students going through the subject. I would have been in a school in Cork City, the Mission Community School, and I had 6 year business there. Love that class because we go in, we do our work. We also just talk about life, like we'd also talk about their goals. We also talk about what they want to do, why they want to do it, and they'd be throwing stuff back and forth, and it was just an unbelievable dialogue. And I must say, I really, really enjoyed that. But in terms of the job itself, I wasn't happy in it. And to be able to make that decision to say, look, and have the support to do it, kind of go, look, I'm gonna just go subbing and work, do the hours that kind of suit me around my business or whatever else has been massive. So having that freedom is huge.
Great opportunity for to say my late great grandma was a Connors from Cork, mate. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, getting my Irish passport soon, mate, this summer. So
Oh, happy
yeah,
days.
must mention that bit. So I think again, like experience or experiences, you've just mentioned about your experiences, and I'm going to stick up for young people here. We'll touch on this. It's a chapter in my book where I really want to bring to life and support um, those young people that are getting rejected and saying you haven't got the experience. And I want them to say, when they get rejected, no, but I've got experiences,
Yeah.
right? And the same repeated experience and being really shit at that job or the
Mhm.
same school or the same office or the same surgery, of course that's going to give you a level and make you see the world in that way. But I think my super strength is that my experiences are so different and so diverse and so
Mhm.
random in the world of elite sport. I'm just a different lens on what's going on.
Yeah.
And hence me writing the first book. Football, Dennis, when I left education, was professional football, was the most unprofessional place I'd ever been.
Wow.
And so I wrote the book and oh yeah, he's just a school teacher. What does he know? And people struggle with me telling the truth. I think they struggle, and now I've been on the high performance podcast. What suddenly I'm more intelligent than I was like 10 years ago as a school teacher when no one knew me.
Yeah.
So media is a lot. There's a lot of bullshit in the media.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bullshit going. Oh, what am I brainy now? Because I've been like because I'm a bit my profile's improved. No,
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same guy with exactly the same message and exactly the same passion. But in schools, unfortunately, schools aren't very glamorous.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that football's miles off, Dennis, and people can keep going, no, there's loads of good practice. Well, there is good practice, but there's far more worse practice than good practice in
And
in in the English football scene.
and how is it miles behind? In what way?
Well, Dennis, people don't even let you finish your sentences without interrupting you.
All right. Okay. That's
You know what
annoying.
I mean? Random, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
people haven't got self-awareness to shut their mouth and let you finish your sentence. Now, if me and you are talking today and you interject me, I don't mean that because I don't want to scare the audience and saying you can't ever speak. What I'm saying is it's the people that tread on your toe every day, Dennis.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. Your audience are like this. IFI, intended frequency impact. I walk past you on a Monday, Dennis, tread on your toe. Go, mate, sorry, geez, tread on your toe. You're like, no worries, Sal, it's not a problem. Tuesday comes and I tread on your toe again. And like, oh, sorry, Dennis. And you're like, well, mate, you did that yesterday, but all
Yeah.
right, I'll let you off again. And Wednesday comes and guess what? I tread on your toe the first time. You're like, you fucking taking the piss out of me now, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's professional football.
Okay.
Like my whole business model is based around stage one self-awareness,
Yeah. Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, because
Yeah.
unless we get that right, no one, footballer, GA athlete, rugby athlete, coach, teacher, parent, mentor. Unless people start looking in the mirror, not out the window every day,
Mm,
the whole planet is going to explode or implode into clash of egos.
yeah. The self-awareness piece is huge.
Yeah.
I I know, I had an incident with a parent only during the week in school. I can tell you know when we finish up the podcast, but like the lack of self-awareness from both the student and the parent was astounding. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the one thing I find is, especially, and you see it even more in teaching, when you're talking to some parents, not all, obviously, but the lack of self-awareness is just ridiculous. And I would say I'd be an emotional intelligence practitioner, so that ties into the emotional intelligence piece. And it's only the more I've thrown myself into the emotional intelligence part of things, is that it's kind of underpinned my full practice of what I do with teams or individuals or whoever. It's key. Like I would have had really poor self-awareness to get to the stage in college where people actually avoided me. Like,
You just give me an idea because on my keynote speeches, I talk about how I fluked self-awareness. And I did genuinely fluke it. It wasn't something I wasn't born with this understanding of it. South London school, first job, 2,800 kids, tough place, fights every day. And the kids go, Sallis, your lessons are shit, mate. Right.
oh, shit.
And it was deep, mate. It hurt. And they go, and Mr. Power like this, Keith Power, one of my best mates in the world, still in touch with him 25 years later. They go, Sallis, Powley's better than you. Now, Powley was 3 years ahead of me on the journey, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a guy I went to uni with, older than me at uni, 3 years ahead on his development journey, 3 years better than me in the classroom and on the
yeah.
grass. And if I worked in a middle class school, Dennis, because it's not just about London, this is about all the cities and all the demographics of wealth, poverty, economic status, and the
Yeah.
types of schools that create certain behaviours, good or bad. The best thing that I ever happened to me was working in the London schools, mate, because it is not easy,
Mm,
and every day you are challenged in lots of ways where if you don't, the Batari box, don't let someone else's attitude and behavior affect your attitude and your behavior, then you find yourself in the school corridor getting sucked into an argument with a 14-year-old, and you're thinking, as an adult, you're in it, you're going, what am I doing here?
yeah.
So I'm just sharing with you, like sometimes I don't always practice what I preach, but
Yeah.
I think I've probably done that better than most because most people call me quite calm. Right. The reality is I'm not calm, I'm lively, but I've had to train myself to be calm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
learned that. I've taught myself that because if you lose your rag, kids just going to mug you off, mate. Literally, you're lost. You're dead. You're
Yeah.
dead to them if you lose your rag.
Yeah. 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 Because even when you go in, even as a H dip over here, like they're pushing your buttons. They're trying to see how far they can push you and what way you'll
Of
react.
course.
And we say when I did my H dip in the school, I think there was 5 or 6 of us, but there was one lady, God bless her, like she wasn't cut out to teach at all, and they prodded her and she reacted, and every single class for the rest of the year was the exact same. And I remember just chatting to her, and she hated it. She just found it so hard because of it. Like every day was a battle then, do you know what I mean? But it
And if you
is,
and if you look at teacher training and you look at the things that we learn, firstly, you've got to know stuff. Yeah. So you've got to know stuff, and then you've got to be able to articulate that stuff. But then you've got to plan a session which has flow and questions which create thought-provoking content. And then I call it the singer, not the song in my first book. The song's my PE content,
mm,
my leadership content. The singer's who brings it to life.
mm,
And I'm going to challenge all coaches on that. Like, who wants? I know, I am a bit of a character, but who seriously wants a boring teacher?
yeah, true. Yeah.
I know who's. And I'm not saying you've got to be going in there and telling really crap gags. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the singer, not the song. It's important to people to think about it because I I worked with teachers I worked with so many mavericks, Dennis,
Mm,
but you need mavericks with maverick kids.
yeah.
And then, when you've got kids in more middle class areas, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, miss, no, miss, and it's more focused on learning,
Mm,
then of course that's nice as well. It's not a problem. But, it's Jurgen Klopp. I'd probably call him a maverick. I'd probably call Pep a maverick.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think if we look, if we relate it to now leadership, and we go back to that topic, I'm not saying just be the best version of you, fact.
Mm.
But I think you've got to have something about you to get people on your bus. And whether you're a teacher or a leader, I think it's still the same shit.
Yeah, and you're going to segue nicely down to the next question. So, are managers automatically leaders, or coaches automatically leaders, or
Of
even are they
course they're not.
automatically
Some of
good
them are
leaders?
no. Cool, yeah, of course they're not. Like it's something that you learn and something if you really want to learn and something what you reflect on if you really want to reflect. The awareness of self, like
Mm.
the genuine awareness of self. You mentioned earlier, I used to reflect when we did reflection journal at uni. Oh my God, I'm 21. Like, yeah, as if I care about reflection at 21. We just got drunk, right?
Yeah,
And then, like you get to mid 30s, and I did my MA in educational psychology at leadership at King's. And then I just met a professor that just changed my life because he
yeah,
gave me access to metacognition. And metacognition was the theory that and listen, not in a rude way, I still see on the speaking circuit academics. Oh, I don't know. I've got an issue with some academics. You're an academic, but then you've still got loads and loads of words on a slide, or you use shit slides.
mm,
We've got we know the worst place to learn. I'm going off on one now, Dennis, but we know the
sure.
worst place to learn, the worst style to learn is being lectured at. And then the top people in the world are called universities, and they're meant to be the experts in education, and they still call their places of learning lecture theatres.
Yeah, yeah,
And why don't they call them learning theatres?
yeah. Very true. Fair point. Yeah,
So I don't think I'm saying things that I got called a disruptor, and I'm like, I don't think I am a disruptor. I just think I'm saying sensible things.
yeah. And how do you find was if you go in right, just with say the term disruptor, right? You go in to a club, and have you come across instances or experiences where the sports psychologist or whoever is looking to protect their patch, and they're trying to maybe paint you in a picture that, using your language, this fella's a disruptor, or are they kind of working with you? Or have you ever come across an instance without naming names or
Good
clubs?
question. Obviously, I'm not sports psych, so that's the first thing that we need to
Yeah,
nail down,
yeah,
right? I've been playful with words, solutions mindset. It
mm,
is what it is, right? People call me a mindset coach. I'm not joking. I don't even know what that is.
okay,
What is mindset? Like I wouldn't even know if someone asked me what's mindset. I don't know. Be a good person. Be kind. Know about stuff. Be kind to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like standard stuff. So I think like that's interesting. I've got. I know. I can smell it. I've got some people in the sports like arena that are really curious about me from afar.
yeah,
But let's just relay this. It's a very important story that I share, right? Every single teacher in the world has got a teaching degree.
yeah,
They get paid exactly the same amount of money, Dennis. And some of them objectively change your life, and some of them are fucking useless.
yeah, yeah,
Fact. Yeah,
yeah,
fact.
absolutely, yeah,
Doctors, solicitors, lawyers, they are no different.
mm,
So therefore, why would a pro license coach be any different? They wouldn't. You get your good ones, your medium ones, and your bad ones. And why would a sports psych be any different? Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
And so I know that a vast majority of practitioners, coach sports psychologists, could not be effective in an inner city school.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I just know they couldn't. And that doesn't mean that I'm better than them. They might be really effective in a more middle class school and get great results.
yeah,
But I'm really talking about human behavior here, aren't I? How do I get dysfunctional people to do things that they choose to make better decisions over a long, long time? And I'm not referring to me, I'm referring to all the great teachers that I work with.
yeah,
We're just called teachers, but if we were called sports psychologists, we would be seen as geniuses, I think, a little bit more. But we're just called teachers.
yeah,
Someone said to me recently, how did you get into keynote speaking, Steve? That's a bit weird. I said, you're taking the fucking piss. I said, what, school assemblies?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I've been doing school assemblies since 1996,
Yeah,
but they're not called keynotes, they're called school assemblies.
yeah,
So does that make sense? Like the world's
100%.
mental, isn't it? Like teachers are game changers, yeah, but only the good ones are. So I
Yeah,
don't know if you've got a teaching audience on your audience, but how good are school teachers, Dennis? But because it's not glamorous and
yeah,
they're not on Sky Sports,
yeah,
does that make sense? Like no one really knows what they do. So I know you asked me about linking. I know I've waffled about the sports science into football. I don't care what anyone does in their job. Just add value. Like
yeah,
that makes sense. Like be open, be caring. Because I know there are going to be some outstanding sports psychologists out there. I know there are.
mm,
But what people think in football is that, oh, you're a sports psych, which means you've got answers. And like you know and I know that we haven't,
no,
right? We've just got a toolbox.
yeah,
And in fairness to sports psychs as well, they could add huge value to a manager.
yeah,
But the problem with the word psychology, just forget sport, the word psychology, if people are ill-informed about the actual meaning of the word, if we maybe called it cognition,
mm,
does that make sense?
yeah,
I don't know. Like, does that make sense? So I don't language is so complicated.
yeah. I know you're dead right because look, you see it on even the example of LinkedIn. Um,
Go on.
People use so I'd see people who may have done a 6 month whatever course on
Yeah.
mindset. And now whatever language they use to describe themselves is kind of, adding a little bit of extra to what they're actually doing without kind of backing it up, if you get me. So they would have done like maybe 6 week or mindset course, and now they're calling themselves performance psychologists. So you're kind of using the language to kind of
No,
back
of
up
course.
their
Well,
position.
everyone, I mean, listen, everyone's calling themselves high performance expert now. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
fucking hell. And in my book, I talk about LinkedIn. I've got a little chapter on, not chapter, but a paragraph on like the myth of LinkedIn. People like make themselves look $1 million, and then you meet them in real life, mate, and you're thinking, oh my God, you have got nothing about you whatsoever. And
yeah,
you walk into a football club or a school, you're going to get absolutely ironed out.
yeah,
So, you listen, it's the myth of LinkedIn, isn't it? People can make themselves look $1 million, and then you actually put them in front of a group of people. I met a sports psychologist once, and she turned up and she said, "Yeah, I don't know anything about football, and I don't like football." I mean, what? Wow. Like, and what I'm doing there, by the way, I'm walking in and I'm planning every single player with every single's names, and I'm going, Danny Mack and the kids. Imagine, like, just preparing, like
yeah,
doing something which is going to hook them in.
yeah, yeah. And that's
Common
really
sense
important.
shit, Dennis.
Yeah, and I'm in a school now, subbing at the moment, and I actually really enjoy it. It'd be class now is a lively school, right? Staff are great, but the kids are lively.
Yeah, class.
But the one
Class.
thing I've learned, right, is I can get more out of them with being myself. So I'm very direct with them. I have a bit of crack with them. I have a slag with them. There was one fella, he got in a fight and he was suspended for a few days. He came back into class. I goes, hang on, go inside the door there again. So then he walked in. I just pressed the Rocky music. And he came in and he started pissing himself. But like him and me get on, there's always a slag. And I know like you'd be talking to staff and he'd be talking with this student, kind of going, Jesus, he's so disruptive. He's this, is that. And I'm kind of going, geez, I don't see that at all. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I suppose he's seen my personality, he knows what I'm like, and I can try and bring people with me that way. And I think that's really important, I suppose, when working with teams or working with individuals, is to have the ability to bring them with you. And with that in mind, in terms of soft skills, what would you say are we say your superpowers in terms of soft skills? What makes you kind of stand out or unique, do you think?
Yeah, changing gear. I'm listening, reflecting on myself. I've been quite hectic on this call today with you. But changing gear, and you'll notice my voice changes, and I go a bit softer.
Yeah.
And I say I really care about you, not you, obviously, Dennis, but I'm referring to young people. Or how are you today? And can I help you? And
Yeah.
how's life right now? And would you like me to do anything to support you with this decision? So I'm speaking quietly, Dennis, because that awareness of self to know and smell the dynamism that you're going to need to be a world-class performer,
Mm.
and then the change of narrative and journey to smell the room, put an arm around the shoulder. And I think like being head of pastoral care in a school as well, which is a beautiful role
Mm.
because you see kids in a completely different light, and more importantly, they see you in a different light.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So lots of small things like girls come in and go, so I didn't think you were like this,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm like, why is that? It's just, because, like boys say, you're quite strict, sir.
Yeah.
And I go, do you know what? I go, I am to the boys, but I'm not to you because you walk in my class and you behave really nicely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so yeah, you asked about soft skills. I think it is something you learn. I think
Absolutely.
it's something we're all mindful. Like, yeah, how hard is it to get it right every time? Like, it's very difficult, isn't it? Just to
Yeah.
get it right. But
Oh yeah.
I think it's just another nugget on our journey of being mindful of your tonality, mindful of your messages, mindful of when to know the less is more button. Here we go. I have a theory on gender here, right? If you share a problem, and this is my experience of lived experience, so I'm not saying this in any weird way, and
Yeah.
I'm more than happy for people to disagree with me.
Yeah.
But if you share a problem with a man will normally respond with they want to fix it and tell you a solution.
Mm.
But if a woman shares a problem with me, they normally just want me to listen.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to use that literally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was just an experience of what I've lived.
Yeah.
There may be a man that I just won't interject and I do need to listen to. So
Mm.
let's not take what I say literally here. That's really important.
Yeah.
But from my experience, a man wants to be told what to do and a woman wants to be listened to from
Mm.
my experience.
Yeah.
Right. So when a player calls me on a Friday night, so you're familiar, Dennis, are you familiar with the actual theoretical term of the differences between coaching and mentoring by definition?
No.
Right. This is really important for listeners. They'll like this. Mentoring is telling someone,
Okay.
and coaching is asking someone.
Okay.
To make it really simple, right?
Yeah.
So when people say to me, what do I do in my work? What are you? I don't give a fuck what I do. I just help people,
Yeah.
right? I don't care what label it is. I don't care what I'm called. Counselor, therapist, life coach, psychologist, psychotherapist, teacher. We're all just trying to help people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I have got is years of theory in the toolbox, and I've got years of applied lived experiences, and all I do is combine that. So linking back to the story, a player, a Premier League player, and I work with lots of them on a Friday night before a Saturday, they don't want to be coached, Dennis. They just want to be told, do this, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Now, if I get them on a Sunday night with 6 days reflection between the next game, I'm not going to mentor.
Yeah.
I'm just going to coach,
Yeah.
right? So hopefully I've given your audience really good nugget of value for money there because
Yeah.
You
100%.
you have to have knowledge and experiences to make decisions in your job and in your life, which are going to move you forward as well as the people that you're serving.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, yeah, that's how I work, mate.
That's a massive nugget, even for myself. That's class.
Yeah.
And for you mentioned out the book, right? So I actually have your first book. Murph gave me a loan of his one, so I'm kind of reading out at the moment. Do you want to tell us about, I suppose, the first book, maybe the premise behind it, and obviously your new book coming out
Yeah, that's kind. So the first book's just educating football, and it's I also write chapters which are short and sharp. So I'm hoping the book's not boring, you know. Sometimes I love reading, yeah. I've got all my books behind me up there,
Yeah.
and I struggle with some books that are just long-winded and
Mm.
don't get to the point and don't make me reflect. So all my writing in both books is based with the audience at mind, and 2 to 3 pages per chapter.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
So yeah, short, sharp, snappy, make people think. I don't have all the answers, but my new book I'm really excited about. Obviously, it's got a very controversial title, how not to be a leadership dickhead and build a high performing team. So it's slightly playful as well. There's a few
Yeah,
F-bombs in there, which I didn't have in the first book because I wouldn't
yeah,
get told off. I can probably be a bit braver now, but I mean this sincerely. Everybody could read chapter one, okay, and not have to read any of the book ever again.
yeah,
That's how excited I am. Like literally, chapter one. If anyone reads chapter one, it take you 45 seconds to read chapter one, and literally you don't have to read it any more of the book. So I'm going to ask you really nicely and all your audience, please buy this book, right? Because there is 47 chapters, in my opinion, of things that could change your life, right? And it's all my intellectual property, right, for 11.99. And um I'm really excited. You know, I said to my editor today, 'cause it comes out next Thursday, got my book launch. I said to my editor today, the one thing I am excited about is people that I know and people that I care about, what they think.
yeah,
They haven't seen all my content.
yeah,
So I want to know, it's important that I share this. I've got a WhatsApp group, yeah, from all my uni boys, yeah,
yeah.
called Dickheads.
Okay.
Right. So Dennis, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and I think it's important to not take yourself too seriously. Yeah. But they're my best friends in the world, and I, I'm really excited about what they're going to say
Yeah,
because
okay.
they are my brothers of life.
Yeah,
And it's really weird, isn't it? Because my mum and dad's going to read it, but they're my peers because they're the teachers. They're the
yeah,
guys that are living what we live.
yeah,
You know, none of them have obviously gone into sport. They're all school teachers. So I'm more curious about my closeness. Is ringing up, going, Sallis, wow, that's helped me.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
that's class. I'm really enjoying it. I only picked it up there the other night because finally got it off Murph. He handed her over to me and he had a big smile on his face. He goes, I mentioned in this book. He was mentioned in the
uh,
first chapter. Um,
uh,
but I love it. It's really short and sharp. Now my only problem is I'm gonna have to buy the book. I'm gonna have to get on you about that because I can't underline or make notes in Murph's books. He fucking kill me.
of
Um,
course. Well, also you get a signed one, mate. So yeah, let me
yeah.
just share with the audience quickly. You get a signed one. All my first book, you can't get it off Amazon because I refuse to sell it on Amazon. So I've sold 21,000 copies and I've signed every single book.
Oh
Right?
wow.
I'm an idiot or a genius. I know that, right? But I do live next door to the post office and I do have an account, so I just drop the books in, so I don't have to do any queuing and stuff. Right. So yeah, the first book you'll get a signed copy. The second one, unfortunately, I won't be able to do that. You get that off Amazon.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to how not to be a leadership dickhead, but remember at the bottom to build a high performing team. So I've got some really good content around how we, businesses, sports clubs, amateur clubs, build a culture of genuine high performance.
And what would you describe high performance as?
Consistency, humble, lifelong learners,
Mm,
and then outcomes. I think we've got
yeah,
to put outcomes in there. Do you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Maybe not outcomes, maybe adding value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think outcomes is just about winning, but if we actually change outcomes to adding value, so let me apply that. Last year I got promoted with Northampton from League Two. Yeah. This year I was with Sutton we joined in January and we got relegated.
mm,
So last year I'm a hero and this year I'm zero, but the reality is I'm not, am I? So
yeah.
I'm more proud of getting relegated from the Football League with Sutton than I was promotion with Northampton because we definitely added more value.
Okay.
Right? But it takes the trained eye of football coaches, managers, unfortunately not supporters always, to say, wow, you lot gave it a right good go.
Yeah,
We went from the statistics are, so let's look at this objectively, 0.82 points per game to 1.16. So, the data don't lie there.
and how do you deal with? Because I suppose I would struggle with this at times, but how would
Go
you
on.
the inner dialogue of am I offering value? Like I would have now I'm only in my journey when so elite performance, whatever you want to call it, and probably added 2, 3 years. So there's been times where I'm working with teams where I would have worried, like, and I would have even the same in City, where I would have worried, kind of go, geez, am I offering value? And it would have taken up a fair bit of space for a while.
Yeah, if you want the truth? I see it, Dennis. I see it. Give you an example. No, I'll tell you the real truth of how I have to have different hats. I go into schools and tell children to be ethical and do the right things, and then I work in first team football, and I've got a rag rating, red, amber, green, of 10 matrix, 10 KPIs. One of them is fucking run, so players have to grade whether we run, and we look at that with data.
Yeah.
One of them is runs in behind. One of them is standards, culture, and behaviour, and one of them is influence ref.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and when I presented it to the board, they went, "We don't like that," and I went, "Why not?" And they went, "Because we don't think that's ethical." And I went, "I'm cool with that answer." I am, Dennis. I'm really relaxed about that because I was uncomfortable with it as well.
Yeah.
However, however, I don't mean swear at the referee. I don't mean rude. I don't mean be abusive. I mean influence. So I'm not going to go down that line anymore. But the reason I said that is because when I looked at the data when we went in January, we were bottom of the football league. We had had no penalties
Mm.
in 22 games,
Yeah.
and by the end of the season, we'd had five.
Yeah.
Right now, of course, that's not just to do with me, is it?
Mm.
But unless we have conversations which can affect marginal gains, and then
Yeah.
we monitor those marginal gains, and I say to players, can we start appealing for more things? Because I know how human behavior works, and I know
Yeah.
how referees can be influenced.
Yeah.
All right, let's support referees here. None of them are cheating. Let's get that straight, right? None of them,
Yeah.
but they can be influenced,
Yeah.
right? So that is the roof. I'm sharing that with you because Murph will know me well, right? You work with Murph.
Yeah.
That is the ruthless part of me,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So how do I measure my work? Well, we've had five penalties.
Yeah.
How do I measure my work? I brought in something called the edge at Wimbledon. Important I share this. Great, probably a great way to end today. But we were we were bottom of League One. We had 8 games to go. We'd also gone in February, right?
Mhm.
And we weren't winning. And I said to the boss, Mark Robinson, who's now 23's manager at Chelsea, wonderful, wonderful human being, right? I said, Robbo, I said, we need to turn the screw now. I said, we've been really calm. I said, we keep losing by, fine margins, odd goals.
Mm.
I said, we got to turn the screw. And he went, what do you mean? I said, mate, we need an edge.
Yeah.
And he went, what's an edge? And I went, well, let me crack on with the boys. And we got to decide what we think an edge is, right? And took the boys to the room, horseshoe classroom. What's the definition of the word edge? Bang, 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 bring it to life. I wasn't in the training ground on the Thursday. The lads smashed the shit out of each other in training, two black eyes. Training intensity went up massive. We go Accrington on the Saturday. Bear in mind, we're bottom of the Football League. Sorry, bottom of League One, bottom
Yeah.
of the third division. Go Accrington on the Thursday with the edge and smash them 4-1. We play Ipswich at home, beat them 3-0. We play Swindon at home, beat them 4-1. We play Ipswich away, draw 0-0. And then we play Oxford at home and win 2-0.
Well.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
However, Murph will back me here because he's also seen me with my coach hat on. Like, I'll back myself, Dennis, genuinely, because I know what I do can help win games of football.
Yeah.
So when you ask me the question, I've just tried to give you two examples there. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. No, that was brilliant.
yeah.
Massive.
And at the end of the season, when Robbo was in the press and he said, what was it that stayed up? I'm very grateful to Robbo because he mentioned me in the press and said, look, Sallis was the instigator of our change in fortune. So
Really. That's
I'm also
class.
working. Yeah, so he is class. Mark Robinson is. I'm going to finish with this. In fact, right, we'll
Yeah.
finish on this because I
Yeah.
need to share this about Mark Robinson. Right, season after we played Arsenal in the League Cup final, and I have to share this because this is what servant leadership is about, and this is what people will talk about you when you're not in the room. And Mark Robinson, like most selfish managers, could have taken all of the bonus money. Managers get a bonus, and assistant managers better get a bonus in cup runs,
Yeah.
generally in pro football.
Yeah.
Robbo decided to give 50 to 60 grand of his bonus to all of his backroom staff.
Wow.
Yeah,
Massive.
wow,
Massive.
massive.
Great engagement.
And I'm still talking about him now, and he don't even know I'm doing this podcast, and he probably won't even hear it, but I will send it to him.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about, Dennis. Yeah, that is serving others.
Yeah.
and too many people talking about it, but not enough of people doing it.
Yeah.
And I was a tiny piece of the pie. I was a consultant.
Yeah.
Probably pick. I think what did I get out of it? 3 or 4K.
Mm,
But when we're talking about physios, we're talking about analysts, we're talking about assistants, coaches.
yeah.
Mark Robinson, for the record, everybody, is an absolute legend.
Unbelievable. I think that is a perfect way to finish up. I think that was one of our
Yeah.
leading points, serving others. Steve, where can people find you on terms of social media and websites and stuff?
Yeah, so why am I? Twitter just at Stephen Sallis, Solutions Mindset, Instagram. Can't get my head around Twitter. I'm way too old for Twitter. Just can't get my head around it. It's just random in it, random place, just for young people. And then just find me on my website, solutionsmindset.com. But thank you, Dennis. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. Obviously we've got a really close mutual friend between us, haven't we? And
We do.
this will be the start of our friendship. I'm absolutely certain. So thank you. Keep up the great work with your podcast, and I hope you get lots of value out of it.
Thanks so much, and thanks for your time, my friend. And look, we'll stay in touch, and I will have you on again. And for anyone listening, make sure you check out Steve's book. It's currently out, and obviously his new one is coming out in next week. I will be getting both. So, Steve, thanks so much for your time, my friend, and I hope everyone enjoys the listen.